Yeah, check it out. Yeah, that's what I thought. We have a disruptive heat pump just outside the door here, so if you wondering what the commotion is over here, and I tried to cut it off a couple of times, but it doesn't seem to want to obey me. All right, good afternoon again. Thank you for letting me be here. Yeah, this particular thing here doesn't get easier for me. I've struggled a little bit for this particular appointment, and I guess it's not necessarily exclusive to today. Seems like I struggle a little bit more than I used to. I don't know why, but I do. I think I know a little bit. I think I know a little bit why, and I'll try to relay some of that. And part of it is you got up this morning, and I know you got up because you're here. Either that or you just didn't go to bed. But you got up this morning and you already knew. You had your coffee, you had your water, or whatever it is that you have in the mornings, and we're kind of predictable because we do have our routines. Maybe you're a person who takes their shower first thing in the morning, or whatever it is that you do, and we are, like I said, creatures of habit, and that's not a bad thing because it's how we operate, right? Maybe you have quiet time, and if you had that quiet time, you already knew. Some of you, probably most of you, I think, I don't know about the ones at home, but the ones in here, probably most of you have pets that are greeting you or needing your attention, or maybe they sleep with you and they were just getting up with you. But they're greeting you, needing you, entertaining you, the things that pets do. I have, especially at the house, I mean, it was true at the old place too, at Roney Road, but it seems like there's more activity most of the time at the new place at Eastbrook with as far as the birds and the squirrels and that kind of stuff. So I have that entertainment that nature provides, and I like it that way because they don't require much from me. They don't even know that I'm watching most of the time. And I too already knew. You didn't need a thermometer. You didn't need a thermometer reading of 12 degrees this morning to remind you what season it is, because you've been through the cycle a time or two. This is not your first rodeo, right? So, and we know. We've been through it. We move through time and space. And we even talk about how life imitates this cycle of spring and summer and fall and winter. And even the portrait that the holy days and stuff paint goes through that cycle as well. But we talk about how life imitates this cycle because it's when we're infants and young children, it's springtime, everything is new, we're learning, seeing, growing, and we talk about those formative first 5 years of life when maybe some of our characteristics are set. But and then obviously the summer of life, which is when we begin to be working and productive, I guess. And I think I'm probably in the autumn, maybe approaching winter. I don't know, but I don't know about the golden years so much. But and I would guess that you didn't have to read Genesis 2:2 again this morning to know that this isn't just another day. You didn't get up and think, man, something feels different about today. I'm going to look in the Bible and see if I can. So last evening wasn't just another sunset, was it? It wasn't just another sunset, because it is likely that unless you had outdoor tasks that requires daylight, which I know some of us do, that the other 6 sunsets this week didn't manufacture or generate very much haste or urgency, as it were. But maybe last night's sunset may have. I know it did for me. Kind of puts you in a different gear when you look and think, oh man, what time does the sun go down? And you look at your little thing and it says 5 whatever, and you're thinking, uh-oh, I gotta get this wrapped up. So it wasn't just another day. This is not just another day. It wasn't just another sunset. And I know you understand the blessing in that, right? Because I liken it to the dietary laws. That difference when the sun is setting on Friday evening. And the reason I liken it to the dietary laws is because it's not about my righteousness or yours necessarily. It's that little reminder. And sometimes it's not so small. I don't mean to make it small. It's that thought, it's that reminder that there is a God in heaven. Something to consider outside myself. When I'm having to look at a menu, or I'm having to ask the question about what's in the food or what the options are, and also when I'm having to hustle it up a little bit as the sun starts to set on Friday afternoon, Friday evening, it's that reminder, right? It's that thought. Outside of myself, there is a God in heaven. Now, for those of us that are married, we know that some of that happens with marriage too, right? We're these young single people out here just taking care of ourselves and doing what we want to do. And then when you get married, if you're going to be happily married, too many marriages don't make it because people still want to do what they want to do. Just have that other person at home maybe, but still do all the things and not give up the things that they like to do. And getting married doesn't mean that you give up everything that you like to do. But it does happen. You have to think outside yourself, right? And the same thing when you're having children. I know it happens maybe on a much more significant basis when you start having children, is realizing, hey, I'm responsible for somebody else. This person actually does depend on me. Your spouse could make it on their own if they needed to, but here are these kids or this child who is in need of everything. So it does happen, and it does cause you to think outside yourself. So, all that being said, you're not in Statesville to learn what's different about today, right? You didn't come here and say, well, I'm going to go find out what's this feeling about today, what's special about today. And when you got up this morning, you already knew your good points and your bad, your strengths and your weaknesses. So you're not in Statesville for me or Cord or Chris to help you sort out your priorities. And just like I talked about last week, you knew this morning the score with the vapor that life is. You know, I talked about last week about how we function on a razor's edge as far as the fragility of life. So you knew that already today before you came here. You already have hope. You already have that hope that the scriptures talk about. So you're not in Statesville to restock, right? My task, I think, would be much easier, and this is the reason I say I struggle a little bit. And I don't want to give too much emphasis to David's thoughts about the foolishness of preaching, but I feel like my task would be easier if I knew each week that I were going to walk in here and see new faces. And I say new faces, not beleaguered faces, not the people who have been everywhere. Now, all are welcome. All are welcome. We all know that. But I think we have learned that we don't necessarily fit the bill always for some of those veteran travelers out there who have been around for a long time and come here thinking that they're going to get the same. Not that we're altogether different, but again, we've had some pretty recent discoveries about that we don't necessarily fit the bill for everyone, especially if they've been around for a long time. I think this is what we do here is more easily understood in this going to church thing in a community. And I say that because most of us have experienced that and still do. I know there's not so much the community we live in now, but where I've been for the last 30 plus years and even as a child. But, you know, there are a few, not that they're not all important, but the main churches where lots of members of the community go to, and it's a community thing, you know what I mean? It's not just a one day a week, one service affair. They have 2 or 3 services a week. They have functions. They have Bible school. They have all these different things. So it does, I guess you can see, and it's not, I don't mean that it's all about being seen and heard or being, well, do you go to Mount Gilead, or do you go to St. John's, or whatever it is, and, you know, but it is that sense of community, and there is a lot of community services and so forth. But I say here the new faces because most of you have been around a while. You've heard me 1,001 times, maybe 1,001 too many times. So it does get a little bit difficult. But getting back to the things that you know, in most cases, you know when you get up, if not the night before, most likely, whether or not you're going to make the trip. Now, days like today, when you get up and it's 10 or 12 degrees outside, and you know it's not supposed to warm up past maybe 30 couple degrees, yeah, that might factor into your decision as to whether you come or not. But it is a beautiful day. It's a little chilly out there in the wind, but you typically know when you get up and start your day whether you're going to attempt to make the trip or not. I'm not going to stand here and say that it's not partially habitual for me. When it's a thing about coming to church, I know that there's a lot of habit in there. And again, I don't say that as a bad thing, because trust me, I have worse habits than coming to church. And I've done it for so long that it's hard to just not come and sit at home. We also want our actions to show that it matters, that this is not just another day. And sometimes the food and fellowship is okay too. Maybe the real point that I'm trying to get to is that the going is not the real cause. Bringing may be more important. Now, I'm not talking about the bringing of the message, because that's just words for us all to hear together and to ponder and to debate and discuss and so forth and so on. In Luke 4, verse 16, and this is, I think, one of the big reasons, is because, like I said in the opening prayer, we come here to hear the words together, maybe talk about the words, discuss, debate, what have you. But in Luke 4:16 it says, "And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read." As his custom was, the scripture says. Maybe that's what I should have used. I come here, excuse me, I come here because it's customary. I should have used that maybe instead of habitual. And I'm going to go to, goodness, I can't get this. Can't get rid of this, whatever it is. Hebrews 10. Hebrews 10, verse 25, "Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together." So that's part of the decision, isn't it? Again, we want our actions to show that it is important and that it matters, that this is not just another day. Not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. So we talk about that, right? There may be a time when we can't make this trip. Doesn't matter what our thoughts are when we get up, or whether we know whether we want to come. Just like I said before, there are some people at home that would like to be here but can't for whatever reason, and we miss them too. not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. So we do think it is biblical that we get together, that we come out, especially on the Sabbath day, and be together and discuss and break bread and fellowship and do those kind of things, because it is hard otherwise. I want to go back to Luke chapter 4. I'm not going to find Luke after Acts, am I? Luke chapter 4, where I just quoted to you, verse 14. Jesus returned to Galilee in the power of the Spirit, and news about him spread through the whole countryside. He was teaching in their synagogues, and everyone praised him. He went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day, and I quoted to you from the King James Version. I'm reading from the NIV. It doesn't say as his custom was. It said where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom. Yes, it does. Sorry about that. He stood up to read. And the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery for the sight of the blind, and to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogue were fastened on him, and he began by saying to them, "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." And we know that this set a course in motion, didn't it, when he said these words? "Today this scripture is fulfilled in your hearing." All spoke well of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his lip. "Isn't this Joseph's son?" they asked. Jesus said to them, "Surely you will quote this proverb to me, 'Physician, heal yourself,' and you will tell me, 'Do here in your hometown what we have heard that you did in Capernaum.' Truly I tell you," he continued, "no prophet is accepted in his hometown. I assure you that there were many widows in Israel in Elijah's time, when the sky was shut for 3.5 years and there was severe famine throughout the land. Yet Elijah was not sent to any of them, but to a widow in Zarephath, to the region of Sidon, and there were many in Israel with leprosy in the time of Elisha the prophet, yet no, not one of them was cleansed, only Naaman the Syrian." All the people in the synagogue were furious when they heard this. They got up, drove him out of the town, and took him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built, in order to throw him off the cliff. But he walked right through the crowd and went on his way. So, just to re-emphasize those scriptures that he stood up and read in the synagogue, and some of the things that came from that. But I'm not going to take any more time, because this is aggravating for me. But not being here speaking, but trying to keep my voice, I will just say it's a good day, right? It is a memorial. We hear Brian say it a lot of times when he gets up here to do the closing or opening prayer. Thank you for this memorial, this creation memorial, this Sabbath day. It is a reminder. We do want to show that it matters, and it can be more about what you bring than what you take away. I do feel for the shut-ins, because I think about that, and I thought, what if I wasn't able to go to church? And being a shut-in is not ideal at all. It's hard to do alone, but if you must. I remember, it's been a couple of years ago now, I was, and it's the second time I'm going to bring up David Freeman, but I had kidded to him about having a t-shirt, because I was talking about, and maybe I've said it up here too, and I apologize if you hear me repeat myself, but I catch myself singing to myself sometimes, and it's usually because when I'm working, and I've been working on a fireplace wall and stuff at home, and I've usually got something playing in the background, and I'm a sucker for classic country music, the oldies as it were. So I hear these songs, and then I find myself singing them. And I was telling David about the Loretta Lynn Conway Twitty, "Love is where you find it when you find no love at home." And I was going to make up a T-shirt about church is where you find it. And I kind of stick to that motto. Church is where you find it. But we have to also find church at home. Cord? Sorry about that.